If you've never ever really done anything in the gym before, maybe you've done some swimming, or you've always done tennis, or you haven't really done anything that could be described as exercise since you were at school, if you go and look up some beginner workouts, it's quite likely that they're still going to be quite advanced if you don't have a coach actually watching you and teaching you how to do these movements properly. The same is true if you go to some classes. Things like body pump and yoga and step aerobics are often recommended to total beginners because you've got someone guiding you, motivating you through the workout. But when you're in a class, you're one of several people who are all doing the exercise at the same time, and usually like to a timer. So there's not a lot of time to just pause, make sure you're doing things properly, watch what you're doing, and then go back to it and learn it in a methodical way. If you're always being swept up by the urgency of the class, it's highly likely that you end up injuring yourself. And I've seen this many times before where people get bad backs, people twist their ankle because they're just being swept up in exercises when it would actually be more beneficial for them to slow down and do things in a much more methodical way. Because people forget exercise is a skill, just like playing a piano or learning how to ride a bike or drive a car. You don't want to be getting in a car and racing it the first time that you get in because you'll crash. So when you go to the gym for the first time, approach it in the exact same way you would approach your first driving lesson or your first piano lesson. We break it down step by step. So the first step is not actually an exercise. The first step is step 0, and that's getting into a routine with your workouts. And at that stage, it really doesn't matter what your workouts are, it just matters that you're doing them. So for an absolute beginner, and I mean absolute beginner, just pick 2 or 3 days of the week that you're gonna go to the gym, go there and find a piece of cardio equipment that you like. I'd recommend the bike or the cross trainer, and use that for about 10 minutes. Go at a moderate pace, get yourself a little bit sweaty and out of breath, and then go home. Do that for like 2 or 3 weeks, because by doing that, what you're doing is you're practicing all of the stuff that happens around the workout. Putting on your trainers, having a shower, remembering to pack your bag, remembering to eat something so that you're not too hungry in the gym, driving to the gym instead of accidentally driving home. All of these things need to happen before you even worry about which exercises you're doing. And then once you feel like you have that on autopilot, the next thing to do is to introduce some resistance training. And specifically resistance training, not cardio, not Zumba, but resistance training. And by resistance training, I mean anything where you're pushing against a heavy resistance. So that can be a body weight exercise like a press up, that can be using a weights machine, or that can be using free weights. It can even be using stretchy bands, and it can be some yoga poses as well. But you need to get this sensation of pushing something, lifting something, moving something heavy. This is the absolute gold standard baseline for healthy muscles, healthy joints, longer life, increased capability in your activities of daily living. And if you don't want to be an old person that can't get up out of a chair or up and down the stairs, you absolutely must be doing some kind of resistance exercise. Swimming doesn't cut it, walking doesn't cut it, and the earlier you start with this, the better. Don't wait until you're already weak and frail to start doing this stuff, because if you don't do it, weakness and frailty is pretty much guaranteed. And when you're weak and frail, you're much more likely to put on weight and become overweight, you're much more likely to break bones, and you're much less likely to recover from sickness. So if you're going to exercise on a regular basis, some resistance exercise is pretty much an absolute must. The only place that this might not be true is if you're already lifted and shifting heavy stuff as part of your daily life. But the thing is, these days we have washing machines, we have robot hoovers, we don't carry around stacks of papers, and we barely need to get up out of our chair. So the normal day-to-day having to move heavy things around that you used to have to do, let alone from when we were cavemen and you had to build your own house, just isn't there anymore. So you need to have that resistance training to replace that. But don't have a picture in your head of Arnold Schwarzenegger pumping iron. All I want you to think about is 3 main exercises. Something pushing, something pulling, and something for your legs. Something for your legs might be a squat or a box squat where you're just standing up and sitting down holding onto a weight. Maybe it's a lunge, maybe it's a leg press, Maybe it's a barbell back squat if you start feeling a bit adventurous and you have somebody to coach you to do that properly without injuring yourself. For your pulling exercises, it might be a dumbbell row, it might be a pulling machine like a row machine or a lat pull down. It might be a pull-up if you're strong enough to do pull-ups. You might want to do assisted pull-ups. You can get an assisted pull-up machine, or you can put a kind of elastic band around your knees to help pull you up, or you can use these TRX straps so that you can pull yourself up almost like on a rope or on sort of gymnastics rings, pulling yourself up or pulling something down. And then for your pushing, you can use a chest press machine, you can push away from a wall, you can do a normal press up, you can do a press up on your knees, they count too. And if you're doing a combination of those 3 movements 2 or 3 times a week, that's all you need to make sure that you don't become this frail, weak person when you're old, overweight and prone to disease. And then after you've done those 3 movements, then go back and do your normal 10-minute bike or cross trainer. And you might want to start going a little bit harder with that, get yourself a little bit more sweaty, push yourself a little bit more on that as well. If you do that for the rest of your life, you'll find that it's much harder for you to get out of shape. If you then also have a healthy diet, it becomes even harder. Where it all becomes more complicated is if you want to change the shape of your body, reduce the amount of fat, increase the amount of muscle on your body from where you currently are. That's where things start to get more complicated. But remember, the answer to every question is to stop asking questions until you're doing things in the real world. So don't worry about the complicated stuff until you're already on a regular basis doing workouts with a pushing exercise, a pulling exercise, and a legs exercise followed by 10 minutes of cardio. Start doing that first. Figure out all the ins and outs of how you're going to get to the gym, how you're going to set up your routine so that you don't miss things and forget things and skip workouts. And then once you're already doing that, you might start realizing that you have questions. And if you have any of those kinds of questions once you're already doing things in the real world, please send them my way and I will try and answer them in a post like this. See ya!